What's up guys? Some of you might not be aware of this, but outside of the US and Canada, if you want to pick up one of the shiny new Dart Zone Pro Mark 2.1s, it can actually be quite expensive. For the new Dart Zone Pro pistol here in Australia, you have to buy it from an importer who charges $269. That's around the same price as the QWK Edge AEG Nerf blaster that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago, and all you're getting is a manual spring pistol of the same power. So recently I was browsing Zenduro Toys website when I came across this blaster called the LP55. It's made by Lehui, who are a name you might recognize from the gel ball scene. But more importantly, this blaster's sold for only $60 US, a fraction of the price I'd have to pay for a Dart Zone Pro Mark 2.1. The LP55 is a very obvious clone of the original Dart Zone Pro Mark II. But it has some very key differences. Firstly, rather than having an internal magazine that you can't remove, this has a detachable 7-shot mag that inserts into the grip. Interestingly, this clone from Lehui actually came out before the Dart Zone Pro Mark 2.1, which adds a removable magazine to Dart Zone's own lineup of pistols. Another key difference is that the LP55 actually has an air seal out of the box. If you recall from my Dart Zone Pro Mark II upgrade video, Dart Zone has a couple of points of air leak in their pistol. The first being that their barrel simply sits loosely inside the dart gate, and secondly, the piston O-ring is too narrow at the top and bottom of the oval shape to contact the walls inside the cylinder. The LP55 holds a perfect air seal, and it does this by having a barrel that's glued into the dart gate, and also by designing their oval shaped piston head better than Dart Zone have. Fairly surprising to me, this being a clone and all. Straight out of the box, the LP55, with a much weaker spring than the one Dart Zone uses, mind you, shoots velocities around the same as the original Mark II, ranging from 110 to 130 feet per second. But after seeing the stock air seal of this blaster, I couldn't help but upgrade it and see just what it's capable of. All I did was take the stronger spring out of a Dart Zone Mark II, and because I don't own a 3D printer, I made my own spring spacer out of barrel material, the same length as the original spacer I used in my Dart Zone Mark II mod guide. This just allows full compression of the spring. Firing the same bamboo darts that come with the Dart Zone Pro Mark 2.1, here's how it's shot over the chronograph. It shot a high of 193, a low of 174, and an average of 181. I'd have to guess that the stock 13mm aluminium barrel is too short and too loose fitting on the darts to see the full potential that the blaster's able to deliver. But because it's glued into the dart gate, what you want to do if you do want to try a brass barrel in this thing is you need to soak the dart gate in boiling water to loosen it up and then remove the barrel. But if you install the stronger spring and a spacer and upgrade to a full brass barrel, I reckon you could easily clear 200 feet per second with this thing. We're definitely not seeing the full potential with the modifications I've made. Something to keep in mind when modding the LP55 is that everything has slightly different dimensions to the Dart Zone equivalent, which is why I had to make my own spacer rather than just using the one out of my Mark II that I took the spring out of. But now let's see what else you get for your $60. In the box you get 2 magazines. They come packaged sitting inside a dual mag holster. There's absolutely no retention at all, and if you're running around or jumping, I'd fully expect the mags to fall out. Next, there's a holster for the blaster. This works pretty much the same as the one that comes with the Dart Zone Mark II, but they aren't cross-compatible. It actually has some decent retention here. Same deal with this Just for Looks front muzzle piece. The sizing is ever so different that you can't use the one Dart Zone has on their blaster or vice versa. And finally, you also get some budget eye pro, which seems to stop this modded blaster just fine, and you get 20 darts. The LP55's magazine is designed only to work with 36mm darts. Most darts we currently use are 38mm, so darts like Worker or AF Pros will actually get stuck in the magazine if you try to use them. This is my biggest complaint with the blaster, and it's the reason that I use Dart Zone bamboo darts for all of my testing. They happen to be 36mm in length, and so they feed perfectly fine in this blaster. Now let's head back outside with those bamboo darts and see how accurate this blaster is shooting at a distance of 20 meters. Accuracy is about what you'd expect with no rifling, 70cm spread on the vertical and around 50cm on the horizontal. This is definitely more of a close quarters blaster, you're not going to be sniping people from across the field with it. Okay guys, so this has been my video of upgrading the cheap Chinese knockoff of the Dart Zone Pro Mark II to shoot 190 FPS. Any of these upgrades could easily be done to the Dart Zone Mark II instead, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone's already got one shooting above 200 feet per second with a combination of spring spacer, brass barrel, and whatever else you'd have to do to get it to actually have an air seal. And while I wouldn't recommend spending $269 for a Dart Zone Pro Mark 2.1, it does show that being able to mod this $60 Chinese knockoff, that there's definitely some modding potential to the official release. That's all I have for you today. Up on the screen I've got 2 other videos that you might find interesting. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.